Hey, this is Peter Reed Miller from On Sports Photography with Peter Reed Miller. I'm here today with my good friend and longtime associate Steve Fine, former director of photography at Sports Illustrated, formerly my boss for many, many years. And we're here today to do part two of sports photography, what it was then and what it is now.
So, Peter, back in the day, when there were 10 photographers on the sidelines,
Right.
and all the games were played in the afternoon, even on the West Coast, on the East Coast as well as the West Coast.
Yes.
Okay. What was it like? What was your preparation like to try to make something different, something iconic, memorable? You know, the way Heinz trained us to make something significant from that event that people would remember on Wednesday after you'd shot it 4 days earlier.
Well, I think the challenge was actually the same, but I think it was harder to realize. You were definitely using equipment that wasn't helping you very much. It wasn't going to focus for you. Your camera was not going to expose for you. Every 36 frames, you're going to have to open it up and stick in a new roll of film. So these are all challenges that people don't face anymore. But I think the idea that you could find a different angle, look at things a different way. I personally was always a fan of working with the light, finding the beautiful low light in the faces, maybe against the dark background, just making a picture that's just a little bit more than someone running with a football or someone catching a football or someone throwing a football.
And now you're surrounded by 350 of your closest friends and relatives.
All my best friends, everyone.
All the
yes.
hangers on and 27 TV cameras and the cord pullers, and you can't roam as fast as you wanted to. You can't shoot anything from the 20 to the 20
Right.
on the bench. You're limited. Your great essay back in the day of the Raiders, could probably not be made now.
No. I show those pictures from that. It was an NFL Properties book, A Game of Passion. I was in the locker room. I was on the bench areas. I mean, this stuff just, you'd be shot doing this these days.
Yeah, we didn't really, when I started out a few years after you, we didn't really talk about access. We just went and got it.
Yeah, you just had it, and slowly that ebbed away. But I just want to say one more thing about people on the field today. Don't forget the dozen or so people with iPads and iPhones who are working for the team's social media.
And therein lies the problem, because just because you are taking pictures doesn't make you a photographer.
Doesn't make you a photographer.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just because you have high-end camera equipment doesn't mean you're necessarily a photographer as well, because you still need an eye, you still need a brain, you still need to know what you're shooting and why, and you still have to have extraordinary eye-hand coordination. The problem I have right now on the high end of sports photography is that there is very little great stuff that I'm seeing. Okay, part of my job is to go through the wires every day, and they do a very good job covering the event mostly through celebration. Apparently, tears and cheers is what the newspapers, the wire service, the websites want to run. Also, they have to shoot to fill a 2x2 screen. I mean, most everybody's getting their news on the phone.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to shoot a sense of place, tableau, with a lot of things going on, and fit it into a 2x2 frame.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's many, many more pictures being taken out there today. Not all of them are very good.
Well, I think the reason you see a lot of this it's production. It's a commodity. It's a commoditization of photography, of sports photography. It's because it's a never-ending need to fill screens, to fill websites, social media. I mean, guys run to their computers after every touchdown. It's a whole different thing. It doesn't really allow you time to sort of sit back and say, okay, what's really going to happen here? What am I going to do? How can I make this angle? You were like, oh, I got it. I got to go. Guys come in at halftime and they're not out till halfway through the third quarter because they're pounding on their computer getting stuff out. So I think the just mass demand for photos has driven down the overall quality because people can't take the time to do it. I think that's one factor.
Speed of getting the picture out has trumped everything.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And in fact, when I cover the Olympics, and I see the boys from Getty and AP and Reuters hanging their robotic cameras and actually editing from a desk, shooting from a desk with a joystick. Okay, it is no longer about making something special; it's about getting it out fast. We live in a world where, with a 24-hour news cycle, is almost 24 individual 1-hour news cycles.
Right.
No one wants to take the time to think about making something really special because they can't. There's no luxury of time.
Right.
So therefore, why try to set up multiple remotes to try to get the perfect shot of Michael Jordan dunking the way Walter did, when in fact what they really want is people, jubilating and celebrating, which is unfortunate. There is nobody out there in sports photography that I am aware of who is making a demand on the photographers to do something different. Now, that doesn't mean the photographers aren't challenging themselves.
Yes.
I mean, there's a number of very, very good shooters out there. Again, they usually pop up during the Olympics when you get a chance to kind of, flex your muscles. And there's great underwater stuff going on. But it is the same underwater picture that Heinz was doing in 1992 in Barcelona.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I think that's true. And I think the thing, to go back to the jubilation, I think this is a generational thing. I think not only are the wire services and even the TV networks showing us more and more Jube, I think as a result, the athletes who are basically have grown up in the last 20, 25 years, that's all they've seen. So that's all.
Well, we also live in the age of the selfie because look at me now.
Yeah.
The age of narcissism.
Oh,
look,
my God.
Here I am. I'm at the game. I'm celebrating. That's all that matters.
Yes.
And the hard work that goes into performing as an athlete, and the even harder work to try to capture a picture that's never been done before has been given, has been lost. That art has been lost.
Well, I mean, there's the great catch. It's over in an instant. There's 3 minutes of dance moves and, coordinated things in front of the TV camera and all this stuff. And it's like, I find that a little bit too much and a little bit away from the fact that the idea is to be athletic and win the game.
Well, back in the day, when SportsCenter first came on, we were concerned about making a picture from an angle on a Saturday that would still have legs on a Wednesday, despite the fact that the highlights from that game ran 8 times a day for 3 days, and it was discussed ad nauseum, on the Monday morning shows as well. So there was an effort put in, and we tried to make stuff. Now, it didn't work every game, obviously, but there was a whole lot of thinking that went in, Monday to Friday to try to make something over the weekend that was different. No one's doing that.
No,
it's gone. I mean, they've given in to the television highlight reel, okay, which now has, unbelievable super slow-mo from 6 different angles. You're getting super slow-mo in the break between plays during the game live.
Yeah.
So I'm beginning to think that the guys who ran the magazines, the pencils as we like to call them, okay, just said, hey, I can get this off a video screen. I mean, our very good friend Gary Hirshhorn, who works at Fox, spends a lot of time doing frame grabs of stuff that is not being photographed by still photographers to put on, the FoxNews.com homepage, because he's chasing Instagram and he's chasing video and he's chasing stuff that not being even shot by the wires anymore.
Yeah, I think that's very true. And it only continues. I mean, every generation of cameras produces a higher quality image. I mean, a 4K frame now is, I don't know what, a 10, 15 megabyte file if you break it down.
Oh, it was not part of the game for us to do a frame grab off a play that we might have missed. That was just not part of the deal at Sports Illustrated at all, ever. And now websites and apps and everything you see on your phone is coming off a TV screen. I mean, Sports Illustrated's like, oh, look at this from a game. I go, wow, that's a hell of a picture. I wonder who was there for them. No, they shot it off a TV screen.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah. I think in two ways. One, the quality's improved so that they can do that, but the other is, again, this ongoing pressure to feed the machine, the mass sports media machine with new material hourly.
Also, the leagues started to take control of their imagery.
Right.
And then the players and their agents and the clubs started taking control of their imagery and getting access and getting somebody to do something. Like, I mean, it was only, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago that Simon Brody was able to convince Michael Phelps to jump into an aquarium with real fish and live turtles to have a picture of him, you know, as the greatest swimmer of all time. I mean, the chance of that happening now, I mean, I can't even remember what the insurance policy was on that particular shoot.
Oh,
Maybe nothing at all.
Yeah.
I mean, we had strobes in the water.
Yeah,
We could have fried Michael Phelps.
Yeah,
You know?
No,
Served him with cocktail sauce.
I think the honor of being on a Sports Illustrated cover is really, really gone. I mean, again, when I started out, that was kind of the magic words. You could get almost anybody to do almost anything for the cover of Sports Illustrated. You could definitely get their time. Even during the season, they always made time.
Certainly college athletes.
Yes, college and pros to an extent.
But this is long before the one and done in college basketball.
Right.
So now you got to get them in high school, which goes back to where we started, because now if you're making great high school basketball pictures specifically.
You're shooting next season's NBA.
Exactly my point. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe that's where the future is. I mean, getting credentials to, you know, the professional leagues is very, very difficult.
Almost impossible, yeah.
I mean, I would like to see more minor league baseball pictures or more college baseball, because that's where baseball's next stars are coming from.
Yes.
Those who are not in the Caribbean. There's no reason not to go down to the Caribbean. Our good friend Gene Fruth has made a beautiful book called Grassroots Baseball.
Yes.
Which shows, you know, kids training in, you know, all the countries in the Caribbean. But football, those pictures are they're very valuable now. I mean, high school football, high school basketball, as you say, very quickly, these are going to be the new stars of the next generation. Right. And that's probably where we should be concentrating now. It's disappointing that the geniuses that we worked for at Time Inc. Could not see the digital age coming.
Yeah, they missed that one.
That they are pouring money into increasing the paper stock for their monthly magazine called Sports Illustrated is somewhat shocking to me.
Fake Sports Illustrated.
And that they never actually cultivated the photography on their website is still, you know, a shame.
Well, they had at their fingertips and in their files 40 years of the best sports photography on the planet, bar none. And it was never marketed properly, and it was never moved on the web. And we did, I don't know how many different websites that failed before we did one that's mediocre.
But there's a nut paragraph in there about one of the reasons that we were not fast enough to get the pictures to the website at halftime is because guys like you and John McDonough had so many remotes up where there might have been the perfect picture for the magazine that by the time we got to, you know, get the card out of the camera, it was already the fourth quarter.
Yes.
So I was never able to get them to understand that high quality and speed were mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
Okay? And therein lies the problem right now, is that they didn't spend the money to give me an extra tech or an extra editor, okay? I mean, this is before tagging pictures in the camera, which has become a very, very useful tool right now. We could have done this better. We could have done it faster, but then they would have had to spend more money.
Yes.
And since they didn't want to spend money on big fancy cover shoots, why would they spend money on a Laker game on a Tuesday night in the middle of the season? So photography costs money. Digital advertising sapped the resources from print advertising. Print advertising costs 10 times more than digital advertising. Then they couldn't afford us, and now they can't afford to have good pictures.
Well, part of this, do you feel that part of this whole speed versus quality results from the basic nature of sports being a very ephemeral, short time kind of a thing. A game is over, and then then there's another game coming up.
Well, part of it is because there are now 25 channels doing sports highlights every day, every night, that by the time you have seen, the Ranger game on MSG, okay, you don't need to see the still picture the next day.
Well, also the Ranger game's being replayed.
Yes, right. Yeah. So video killed
the photography star,
the TV star here. The radio star. Definitely. I mean, you have seen the game so much, and you've seen the post-game, press conference where at least the NBA gets all dressed up and they become stylized, fashionistas. That there is no. Well, I mean, I work at Flipboard now, okay, and I put together a roundup every morning of the best sports stories that I think you should read if you had 30 minutes. None of them are focused on the photography. All of them have video in them, okay, of highlights from the game. Whether I'm picking up from USA Today or ESPN or the Washington Post or the LA Times, okay, it's mostly a video clip or a single image with no other secondary images in the article, in a full-length article. It's true of Sports Illustrated, even a Tom Verducci roundup of the World Series only had a half a dozen pictures in it, where we used to do like 12 pages and a commemorative. So there is no market, and I assume no interest in the population of sports enthusiasts out there to see a bunch of still pictures the next morning. I have found, again, at Flipboard, that the galleries that I do on fall foliage and landscape photography.
Love those leaves.
Right. Do a hell of a lot better than a roundup of, Game 5 of the World Series, because by the time it's out, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, or even if I did it on deadline, okay, everybody's seen the game to death. So I think TV has cannibalized, themselves, because there are so many channels doing the same damn thing, and also taken the punch out of the still pictures the day after.
Well, they've taken the public's attention.
Yeah,
they've monopolized that. There's no room for people to take time to look at still photos anymore, because they've already seen this 3 or 4 or 5.
Highlight package.
Yes, yeah. I think that. Yeah. So another issue that we see a lot now is the leagues taking more and more control of their imagery, of their players, of their logos, of their teams. To the point where I know if they had their druthers, only NBA photographers would shoot NBA games. I know that. They tried that, but they didn't succeed. But they have taken a lot bigger control. NFL, same thing. MLB, same thing. This is really squeezing out a lot of photographers.
Also, as we both know, you shooting for AP, for football, and I have many friends who shoot for MLB, they are given a laundry list of things to shoot.
Yes.
And therefore, there's no time to walk around and shoot, beautiful light down the right field line. Okay, because you got to shoot all of these people doing all of these boring ass things. These what we used to call bubblegum cards. Okay, that
shooting the numbers. That's what I call it.
Shooting the numbers. Yeah, and now they have control of those pictures, so they can use them for advertising and marketing and whatever, billboards in Times Square. Another reason there's no time to make a great action picture. Yeah. So the licensing is all about control. It's all about, they want to own the look of their game and their athletes, and they want control over the pictures, and they don't want negative stories in the in the publications with negative pictures putting any of their sports in a bad light. This was started by the NBA, way back when, and they outlawed the freelancers from coming in. You had to sign all kinds of paperwork saying you couldn't do this or that, and now most of the the Big Four have that as their philosophy. and they're also in the business of selling pictures.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And so this is a revenue stream for them.
Exactly. They figured that out.
Right. So they control the imagery, and people have. If you want to take pictures and you want to try to make a living out of this, you have to give in to their demands. Yet another reason that the pictures are so boring.
Well, and that's the point. Their demands are a laundry list of players, full length, no obstructions, clean background. So if you make a great action picture, they don't really care.
No, they're going to crop the person they want out of it.
They don't really care.
Yeah.
They don't say, "Hey, that's great. We're going to do this, this." No, you mean you didn't get 40 pictures of the entire defensive line?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't see photo acts on the left tackles anymore. You don't see Lester Hayes pictures of what it takes to be a proper DB anymore. All you see is dog piles and jubilation and
guys running down the field
and boo-hoo in the opposing dugout, and it's really disappointing. I mean, the Olympics, I'll go back to that. There are opportunities at the Olympics to do something different. Then again, you're also dealing with sports you don't only see every 4 years,
so they're kind of different inherently.
Like, wow, look at that! That's like team handball. Whoever heard of that?
Love it.
And water polo. Who shoots water polo? But and back to the original point, those pictures are improving among the many photojournalists who are there because they have access to all the good cameras and all the fast lenses and all the things that make better versions of those pictures, which gets us back to you might as well, shoot your, local college or your high school and attend the Peter Reed Miller Sports Workshop and get better there, because there are the jobs on the high end aren't rendering.
They're not there anymore.
High-end pictures anymore either. Okay, there's a few.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a few out there trying to do things, but some of our friends, like the guy who runs Wimbledon, he's shooting teacups for Lavazza sometimes. He hires a team of photographers. One guy's job is to run around and shoot signs. Because he needs that for the corporate,
that's
part of his job.
Pretty much any coverage of any big event.
And you can't make a really pretty picture of a sign.
No.
You just can't.
No, and I just want to go back to the Olympics for a second. We talked about jubilation and how there's really too much of it. But I will say, I believe in the Olympics, a lot of the more jubilation is really genuine.
Well, that's because the difference between getting bronze and getting fourth is like your whole life. I mean, you've been up at 4 o'clock in the morning training for
4 years,
4 or 5 years,
or more than 4 years.
That's right.
And this is your one shot,
and you miss by a thousandth of a second. Getting a piece of hardware, and that's really the essence of the pathos and the romance of the Olympics.
Here we are. We've gone through a lot of the issues, a lot of the changes that have not been for the good. So what is better? What is good now, better now than it was then?
More people are taking better pictures of less high-profile sporting events. Okay, so that the stuff that you're getting from the colleges, from the high school level, from the little kid
youth
level.
Sports,
youth sports is a huge business, and those pictures are way better.
They are.
Okay, now not all of them have come through this workshop and learned what they need to learn.
A lot of them have.
Yeah, okay, but many of them have taken care to shoot the kinds of pictures that maybe you did while you were working at Sports Illustrated and emulate you, and now they can do that with better cameras and a better sense of what makes a good picture. Okay, I think people are doing a better job of thinking through what the message is that they're trying to convey in the picture, and not just having stuff run in front of their camera.
No, I get a sense. I mean, I from the workshops is one thing, but this very YouTube site that you're watching, other things, comments I get, emails I get, that there are a lot of people out there who are really working on their craft. They really want to do better. And in the past, they probably could have gotten away with what they were doing, but they still want to do better on whatever level they're shooting. And that's sort of always been my principles of the workshop, and I think I'm seeing it all over the place now, is that even if they're only shooting a small college in Montana, they want to know, what's better, what camera, what lens, what did you do to make this picture, this is good. This is really good.
Well, what I'm seeing is, and having worked with you on and off at the workshops for like the last 10 years, is my role here is to help edit and also to take a look at portfolios. And the portfolio reviews of the students that are coming in now,
much better.
So much better than what I saw 10 years ago. So clearly the grassroots, if you will, people out there are shooting much better.
Yes,
I mean, it used to be that you'd have to teach them how to shoot football from beginning to end.
Yeah.
Now they're trying to refine and hone and get better. And we're teaching them about cropping, and we're teaching them. You're no longer teaching them about exposure. You're not teaching them about what lens necessarily to use at a night game at a high school football game, because they already know. Okay, there's more access to long glass, so they're taking more chances at daylight games. Okay, and they're making better pictures, much better pictures. Their portfolios are they're at that level at your workshop that you would hope they would be at. They're good enough.
Yes.
Now, how do they become very good?
Yes. I mean, I've always felt that I would take any people of any level of experience and just try and make them better. But I'll tell you, it's a lot easier when people are pretty good.
Yeah, their foundations are
they've
more,
got the basics.
They're solid now.
Let's polish the craft.
Exactly. So that is a good thing. There is, though I think that there's more mediocre pictures out there because there are more pictures out there.
Right.
Those who are serious about this and those who are really trying to get better, it goes back to what we used to talk about. If you got a fingertip catch in a football game, a couple times a season, you had a great year.
In the 1970s or 80s,
Yeah, now you get 3 a game.
Yep.
So what is the next best picture that they're trying to aspire to is what they're thinking about. And a lot of it has turned around, I'm happy to say, to more behind the scenes, more personality-driven pictures,
scene setting,
more sense of place, more of the emotion on the sidelines pre-game that goes back to our whole philosophy, which is your storytellers out there.
Yes.
Okay? Great pictures don't need captions. Okay? And if you give me a set of 10, 12, 15 pictures that gives me the story of the game where I don't have to, I wasn't at the game and I didn't see it, on TV on the highlight package or something, and I have a good sense of what happened after that, then you've really accomplished something. And that has definitely improved. There's the narrative. The photo narrative, has gotten much better. People are understanding the beginning, middle, and end. They're understanding the concept of what is the one shot that says the game, whether it was a turnover or a touchdown catch or whatever it is. They're getting a better idea of how to tell the story of sport.
Yes. Not just make the picture, tell the story.
Right.
Big difference.
Yes.
Big difference.
Yes. And they're coming in there a little more prepared, a little bit better understanding of who they're shooting and why. And the pictures are coming out much better. I mean, I see that. I'm seeing that this week at the workshop. Okay.
So, Steve, where do you see this all heading? Where do you see? Put out your crystal ball.
Well, in a good way, we have far more sports photojournalists out there than we ever had before.
Yes, true that.
When I was, director of photography at Sports Illustrated, and we had to pick up something because you can't be at every game.
Right.
Oh my God, we would hold our breath, and especially if it was a college game, you'd have to call to see if some of the college students had made the picture even.
Yes.
You'd call the local paper who sent one photographer only, and he was at the wrong end, And now you're looking for the picture of Chaminade beating Virginia in 1980, whatever it was, 1982 in Hawaii on Christmas Eve, and no one was shooting it,
Who was there?
And I almost died, trying to find that picture. Now you can edit the pictures from those games because there are so many people shooting it and so many people shooting it well, that you have a choice of this picture or this picture or this picture to use in your story, on your website. I mean, you also, since the advent of social media and everybody's posting all the time,
it comes to you.
There it is. There it is.
Instagram,
you know exactly
Facebook,
what you have. Right.
Twitter. I mean, you're going to see those pictures whether you even have to go look for them.
Part of my job when I'm doing news gathering for Flipboard is I make a point of watching the NBC News at 6:30 at night, because not the beginning of it, but the end where they're doing some sort of a feature story, and all of a sudden there are pictures that I hadn't seen before that I might need for my, pictures of the week gallery.
Because they're doing the same thing.
And
grabbing
there's some unknown name up on top who's
yeah.
getting credit. It doesn't usually say, so and so / Getty. It just says a name with an A in the circle, right?
I mean, you see great storm pictures. You see great fire pictures from people,
right, who are regular citizens out there,
not civilians,
taking really good pictures. So we are telling the story of the world in a much better, clearer way than we used to, and no game goes uncovered.
Right.
There are no more Virginia Chaminade problems out there. Okay, every game has a choice of pictures, and that has made sports photography, sports reporting, photographically, so much better.
Yes, yeah, truly. No more Wilt Chamberlain scoring 100 points.
And him standing there with a sign that says 100 because there are zero
There's
zero
nothing
pictures,
of him going to the hoop.
And there's no video either.
Yeah.
There's nothing of him scoring 100 points.
Yeah.
So that day is over, and for that, we are grateful.
Well, as we look to the future, I think the key thing is photographers to keep trying to separate themselves from the pack, because the pack is getting bigger, and the pack is getting more, a lot of people with the same gear, the same technology. It's getting bigger and thicker, and it's easy to get lost. It's easy to be doing the same thing as everybody else, and it's good. And you're thinking, I'm doing good stuff. So's the guy next to you and the guy next to him. So again, as always, the challenge is separate yourself. Come up with something. Find a different, like what we've been saying all along. This is what we used to do. This still has to be done. You have to find something different. You have to find something that is going to make people stop flipping, stop turning the page, whatever. That is still the challenge to a photographer now and in the future.
And sometimes it's as subtle or nuanced as a different angle, a different point of view.
Right.
Go up, put the camera on the floor like you have done.
Yeah.
Just change the point of view, okay? Maybe instead of crowding in at the finish line at the men's 100, go do, the start. Go do the third turn, on the longer races, okay?
Yeah.
Do something where you're chasing, the slanty light, so it makes a picture not necessarily of the winner, okay? Now, I do understand if you're the only guy covering something.
If that's your mandate from your
then you
work.
have to do your job, okay? But on the other hand, if you're the local newspaper guy at the Olympic trials, that the finish line is being covered by the major wire
27
services.
people,
exactly.
Yeah.
Go chase something else. Okay. Go look. Go long and tight or wide and a sense of place. There's no reason for you to take that boring shot. You don't need a 2-column by 4-inch picture for the local paper anymore. They can change the shapes, and also that local paper is probably putting it online.
Exactly.
Okay, in which case you can have any shape you want.
Yes.
Okay, and also they have a social butterfly who's putting it out on Instagram, okay, and Twitter and Facebook, and you can have any shape you want there.
Yeah.
And let's face it, more people are seeing the stuff on Facebook than are seeing the New York Times online.
Right.
So you have an opportunity to make a different picture. I mean, this was always the challenge at Sports Illustrated. We stood on the shoulders of those who came before us, and they showed us the way, and then we had to take that and push the envelope a little bit further and try to make something a little bit different. Now, you're not going to make something drastically different every single day, but if you go to enough games and you look at other people's stuff, and one of the things about photographers is they get fixated on their own pictures. I mean, it's like they're children, except it's not their children. It's just a bunch of pixels in your camera, okay? So, hone in, edit stuff down, try to figure out what you did right, wrong, and make it better, okay? And certainly make it different.
And expose yourself to a lot of other people's work.
Right.
Do
you really need to
try to be inspired by that rather than discouraged by it.
And that's where I think Instagram, has a role.
Yes.
Because I am seeing the stuff that my friends, the great photographers out there, are doing on their own because there's no place for them to get published anymore. And I can keep track of them, and I can keep track of their work, and I can see people doing different things. And okay, you're not getting paid, but at least you're getting published. It's self-publishing, but necessarily you're getting your work out there to be seen. So I would recommend that. I look at it 4 times a day.
Well, I think that's an urge of any creative person in any creative field, that it's the urge to create, but the urge to share what you've created.
Yes. Well, back to the age of narcissism again. But that's where we live. And look, they're going to be playing sports long after we're, gone. And I always say, if you go to a football game, in any given play, there's a picture to be made.
True.
May not be true of tennis or baseball or some of the other sports. But if you go to a football game, something could happen on any play.
22 guys on the field, all trying to do something for each other or against each other. There's moments every play.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you should be able to make some sort of a football picture. May not be the greatest football picture, but it'll certainly be better than the football pictures that were being made years ago because of the advent of all the cameras and the technology.
Yeah. So with all this new technology, changes, everything, Instagram, Twitter, blah, 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 how does a photographer, a guy or a girl, how do we make money anymore?
Well, there are certain organizations out there that I'm not as familiar as you are that cultivate people who want to make really good youth sports or high school level sports. So tell us what they are.
Well, GF Crew is one, and they have one model of selling, which is basically going to parents and pre-selling and saying, I will shoot your kid and maybe a few others, but I will devote myself exclusively so you will really get something special. There are other models where it's basically shoot the game, put it up there, and see what sells. And again, your skill level can help you there, can help you differentiate.
Does Max Preps have a cohort of photographers they rely on to?
Yes, they do.
What are there other organizations out there?
I really don't know. I mean, I know there are individuals who have large organizations where they have contracts with leagues and federations and all that, and so there's certainly that to be done.
On a professional level, your best bet is still stringing for the AP, trying to get some work from USA Today, Sports Images. Yeah. Certainly, Getty always needs extra help at various places. I used to say, in the old days, when people want to know how do you get to work for Sports Illustrated, that if you're good enough, I will have heard about you before you got to see me. Yeah. And some of those guys do rise and shine. But the wires are primarily the way that sports photography is being distributed right now. And though there are no jobs to be had at Sports Illustrated, and it's not even a magazine at ESPN anymore, websites need to be filled up. And those pictures are coming from someplace. My wish is that there were better picture editors out there choosing the pictures for those websites and those apps, because I think sometimes they just run the same picture over and over and over again, or at least the same idea of the picture, getting back to there's way too much celebration, and where is that play at the plate? Yeah. But there are limitations. Professionally, it ain't what it used to be. That's for sure. No. And there's nobody spending, Annie Leibovitz type money to make covers of these print magazines anymore. So, that ship has sailed.
Well, I will say, here's a gleam of hope, I think, in terms of shooting sports in college athletics. And I don't mean USC and Ohio State and Texas and all that, but there are God knows how many colleges in this country, and they all have sports programs. And even if you have a college that's fairly decent, you want to start shooting the sports that don't get covered. So you go out and shoot the lacrosse match, or you go and shoot
wrestling.
The wrestling,
which is much like football. You ought to be able to make a picture of wrestling almost every match.
Right, or hockey at the University of Arizona, or something like that. And you start feeding the sports information director those photos, which makes his life easier because he doesn't have anybody, he can't pay anybody. But then, then in a year or so, you maybe ask for football credentials.
Right, you're the second guy on the basketball
team.
And
he kind of knows you.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing is that there is a lot of need of all kinds of photography in the college market because those colleges have to market themselves. They all do websites. They all do brochures. And it's competition. The better photos really help them. So I think there's a lot. A lot of people I know have found colleges in their area and shoot for them, do some portraits, do some campus scenes, and do some sports, and come away pretty well. Well, yeah, and I think, on these different sports, the athletes, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're the quarterback of the football team or you're the super flyweight wrestler. You care about having some pictures of your sport, and your SID cares about promoting that sport.
Also, it goes back to that Olympic theory we have, which is the non-major sports, they're not swim, gym, track athletes. Those make
great pictures. Make great pictures.
Okay, and you can you get much better at shooting by working those. Also, now you have real access.
Yeah,
because you are the only guy.
Right. You're the only
guy
person on
covering
the
that
field.
cross-country meet.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're in the woods, and here they come, and here comes the light, and here's the guy coming up the hill, and he's sweating, and
go
he's
wherever
bleeding,
you
and,
want.
and you now have a great photograph. Okay,
Yes.
so you know what? There's something to be said for access. Okay,
Yes.
where you're the only one there.
Right.
Because you also have exclusivity. So I would definitely work on those things. I mean, and colleges are teaching, high schools are teaching. Our good friend here in Las Vegas, Greg Kava, is teaching kids how to make great pictures. And they're going to college, and the colleges are getting better pictures because the high school level now has, they have their own photo room. They have their own media room.
My God,
my
some
God,
of these
the stuff that we have
places,
seen is really high end. So,
that does create a lot of opportunity and a lot of skill positions to be filled.
Yeah.
And people
but like
to fill
anything
them.
else, I mean, photography is a meritocracy. If you're good, someone will recognize it.
Yeah.
Okay. And it requires a lot of time and a lot of patience. And just because you shot, 5 football games doesn't make you a football photographer. Okay. Because
or you sat next to John Beaver and made the one picture like his.
And then you got to be able to go out there 3-4 times a week, with 2 different sports and make those kinds of pictures. Just because you have a camera doesn't make you a photographer. Okay.
So that's kind of our thoughts for today. We kind of wandered here and there around, but that's how it was. That's how we see it now, and that's a little bit of how we hope it goes in the future. So hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe if you're not a subscriber. And good shooting from Peter Reed Miller at On Sports Photography with Peter Reed Miller. I want to thank my friends at GF Crew for making this video possible. If you want to make money shooting action sports, check out GF Crew. Go to gfcrew.com to join. It's free. They have a whole process and an app set up to help you make money shooting sports. Check it out. Get started today.